So I was thinking the other day about how evil gets into the world, and I realized that evil doesn't have the ability to directly act in our plane without permission. You see this in the story of Job. Satan has to go and ask permission to be able to attack Job directly, right? And so what that reveals to us is that spiritual forces don't have the ability to directly act in our plane of existence without permission. And so if that's the case, then the question is, how does so much evil get into our world? And the answer is, interestingly, through human conduits. But it goes deeper than that. I know that probably feels obvious. Like, of course, Satan and evil move through people, but it's more, there's something more profound to this idea when you start to break it down. So basically, the way evil enters the world is always through a human action, outside of the very rare occasions where the demonic is given permission to act, and I don't know the rules on how that works, but we'll just recognize or acknowledge that is not the norm. So the norm is that evil acts through human conduits. And the question is how? How do they do that? How does evil manage to get a hold of a person and manipulate them in such a way that they would act in an evil manner? Like, you really have to stop and think about this for a second. Like, nobody wakes up and goes, I want to kill people, right? Like, that maybe the rare sociopath or something else, but in general, in fact, I actually can't think of a single serial killer who had a normal upbringing. All of them had some type of deviance in their parents or in their circumstances. So I feel pretty confident in saying that nobody just wakes up wanting to harm other people. And so how is it that evil manages to manipulate us into doing things that are not only harmful to others, but often harmful to ourselves? And the answer is by leveraging our desires and our needs. If you think about it, pretty much every war that has ever been fought has been either caused by a revolt from a group of people who were being oppressed at a resource level. So they had a lack and they had a genuine need for more resources, and so they attacked their neighbor in order to take those resources to meet the need, or they just had a desire for something nicer or a nicer area, nicer land, whatever. And then if you take it down to like a micro level, or at an individual level, somebody sees a person has a wife who's hotter, go back in like the Middle Ages, this probably doesn't happen so much anymore, but somebody sees somebody that has a wife that's more attractive, and so they go kill the guy and take his woman, right? Or they see they've got a nice car, and so they kill the guy and they take the car, or they just steal the car, don't even have to assault the person, take it and drive. But all of these evil actions that we see in the world are perpetrated by human beings, but those human beings are being manipulated by the leveraging of their desires or the leveraging of their needs. And so the question is, well, then how do we get rid of evil in the world? And I think the answer is through the perfecting of love. You see, I was reading in John, it might have been 1 John actually, but it was talking about how when a person is perfected in love, and what that means is when they have a complete revelation of who they are to God, a complete revelation of how very and truly loved they are. When they have that complete revelation, there is no longer any fear in that person. That means that they will not fear lack, they will not fear death, they will not fear the fulfillment of their desires, because they live with the complete certainty that God will take care of them. Whether in this life or the next, He will take care of them. He will meet every need. He will fulfill those desires, either in this life or in the next. And so it is in that place of understanding the fullness of love in their identity that fear is driven out. And if there is no fear, then it becomes infinitely more difficult, if not impossible, for Satan or any type of demonic force to leverage a person to do evil. And I'm not saying this is easy, but it helps to contextualize, I think, what the point of the life of a believer is. The first point of our life as believers, those of us who have made Jesus Christ Lord of our life, the first objective is to come to a complete understanding of our identity and God's love for us, right? To be brought to the full maturity of love. That's the first step. Once that's complete, then our goal from there is to help others come to the same understanding and revelation. Now, I just want you to imagine this played out. Imagine if you took a territory, like an actual territory, a city, right? Imagine you took a city, and every single person in that entire city came to this revelation of the love of God, and came to a full and in-depth transformative experience, knowing the love of God to the point of complete and utter trust, so that if they ran out of food, they would sooner just run out of food and die, right? And meet their Maker, because they are that confident that God has them, right? In this life or the next, or whatever desires they have, they're able to set those desires down and not live in frustration or anger or angst because they don't have those desires in this life, because once again, they're so confident in what God has for them that they cannot be leveraged, right? Imagine if you had a whole city full of people like this that couldn't be leveraged. What would happen? Like, Satan would be completely incapable of acting in that area. In fact, not just Satan, like evil in general would be absent, because it would not have a conduit with which to act in the earth. Anyway, there's just some thoughts I've been having lately, but I feel like that brings together such a better understanding of why we resist temptation, why we resist evil, why we go through the pangs of growing in this faith, and then also why we need to share with others as we feel led to do so. Because there's a material gain in this world by shutting off the access, shutting evil's access off to our time and space. That's how we fix the world. All right, so that's it. Those are my thoughts. I've been doing a couple of these. If you guys have anything you would like me to talk about, anything you have questions about regarding Scripture, regarding God, drop it in the comments, and I'll talk about it. And I'd love to hear from you guys if you found this helpful.